Chapter 21. Assessment begins. The Xuanden sect is said to have 100,000 external peak disciples, dispersed amongst 100 external peaks. On average, each peak should have at least 1,000. Though the numbers might be a bit exaggerated, it is roughly correct. Little Lingshu Peak, being one of the external peaks, only ranks somewhere in the middle in terms of strength. The master of such an external peak is usually a cultivator at the peak of the 9th level of Qi cultivation stage, not a foundation establishment cultivator. Only the top 20 peaks of the external peaks are led by foundation establishment stage cultivators. And the rank of an external peak is measured by a single standard. Spirit veins. Even though they are all second stage spirit veins, the concentration of spirit energy between one barely meeting the second stage standard and one almost reaching the third stage can vary, by up to threefold. Though it's just threefold, the difference in cultivation could be enormous. This is about spirit veins, one of the most important resources in the cultivation world. At this moment, Han Yi found himself standing at the major node of such an essential resource in cultivation. Although it's only second stage, the density of its spirit energy is the highest since Han Yi crossed over. However, Han Yi did not attempt to break through in the cultivation room. Firstly, he only had 10 days. After 10 days, the examination would start. He didn't want to compromise the sect return examination just because he was caught up in the breakthrough, not even a moment's delay. Secondly, even if he could break through in 10 days, his control over the power of his cultivation would not be high immediately after the breakthrough. This would not only be unhelpful to his alchemy skill, it might even result in errors in power output during alchemy, cause the alchemy to go wrong, and ruin everything. Moreover, he didn't immerse himself in improving his proficiency. In the sect's cultivation room, he felt an unprecedented sense of security. In these 10 days, he was simply polishing the power of his body, adjusting his condition, and tuning his state to the best. If someone figured out that he spent 10 spirit stones on renting a cultivation room for 10 days just to hone his state, they would probably curse him for being a spendthrift. But Han Yi didn't care. What he was concerned about was getting back to the sect steadily and safely. Only by returning to the safely guaranteed sect, could he execute his following plans. After 10 days, Han Yi finished his seclusion. His eyes were filled with sparkling lights, his spirit was high, and his body was filled with immortal qi. After leaving the cultivation room, Han Yi went to the place where Little Lingshu Peak provides disciples with spiritual medicine and herbs. He bought 30 sets of nurturing qi pill ingredients and 20 sets of exorcise evil spirits pill ingredients with spirit stones. Next, he went straight towards the Great Hall of Vermilion Bird Peak where the sect was managed. When he arrived at the Great Hall, he tried to find Guan Sheng to see if he was on duty that day. But, realizing that he wasn't present, Han Yi had to give up. He found another on-duty brother instead and handed over his sect identity token. Brother, I, Han Yi, was sent down the mountain due to insufficient points a year ago. Today marks the end of the 1-year term, and I am here to apply for the sect return examination. Could you please assist me with it? The on-duty brother took Han Yi's identity token with no expression on his face. He checked the data. After confirming that the provided information matched the recorded data, he nodded his head. Every year, a lot of disciples who were sent to work outside the sect would apply for the sect return examination after 1 year. But very few of them could actually pass the exam. Most just tried their luck. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to Han Yi. He simply recorded the information, then passed back a temporary examination token and Han Yi's sect token. Take this token and go to the backyard of Alchemy Hall on Black Tortoise Peak. There, people in charge are assigned to review sect return examinations. They will conduct your examination. Go now. Han Yi kept the examination token carefully, thanked the on-duty brother. Black Tortoise Peak is one of the 9 inner peaks of Xuanden sect. Han Yi wasn't here for the first time and had already learned about the process for disciples who had been sent out to return to the sect. The procedure was to find the duty officers in the Alchemy Hall on Black Tortoise Peak, perform alchemy on the spot, and the officers would assess the disciples' pill-making skills. This sort of assessment was conducted by the officers who had reached the 8th or 9th level of Qi cultivation stage, hence the requirements were generally stricter than the yearly requirement of 100 points for disciples in the outer peaks. As such, it was said that the difficulty increases if a dispatched disciple wishes to return to the sect. However, Han Yi was undeterred this time. His strength was evident, and he was fully confident in his alchemy skills. He was determined to succeed in his purpose. If he could not make it, he believed no dispatched disciple could return to the sect. When he arrived at Black Tortoise Peak, he headed straight to the backyard of the Alchemy Hall located there. The backyard. There were already 7 people lined up in front of Han Yi. Like Han Yi, these 7 were dispatched disciples applying for the return to sect examination. Han Yi did not know them and had no intention to strike up a conversation. However, one of the youngsters, who seemed to be very sociable, tried to probe for information about Han Yi. He was deterred by Han Yi's straightforward responses and reluctance to chat and left feeling uninterested. The queue moved quickly. Each entering disciple came out looking dejected. Even the sociable young man had deeply furrowed brows, agonizing over his mistakes, his face filled with unwillingness to accept his failure. He gave Han Yi a glance, let out a huff, and left, his thoughts reading, "It's your turn next, we're all the same." When Han Yi's turn came, he stepped in. The officers on duty that day included 3 people. An old man over 60, a young man in his early 30s with a red face, and a voluptuous woman around 40. The old man took Han Yi's assessment token expressionlessly, checked the information on it, finally looked at Han Yi properly, and nodded. 1 year in the mountains, and you've gone from the 2nd stage of chi cultivation to the 3rd stage. And judging by the energy you radiate, you're only 1 step away from the 4th stage. And your mental state seems quite good. You seem very confident. That's good. The old man finished saying these few sentences, threw Han Yi's assessment token back to him, and asked straightforwardly, "What kind of pill are you good at refining?" "Master, I have been refining nurturing chi pills for many years, and I have some insights into their refinement," Han Yi respectfully replied. In the Xuanden sect, there was no strict hierarchy in terms of address. But generally, if they hold the same realm, such as both being in chi cultivation stage, they will address each other as brothers. If they are in 2 different realms, for instance, a foundation establishment stage cultivator and a chi cultivation stage cultivator, the latter would call the former Master Uncle or Master Uncle. Of course, in general, lower and middle level chi cultivators would also call the late stage chi cultivators in important positions Master Uncle out of respect. So, in a show of deference, Han Yi addressed this late stage chi cultivation officer as Uncle Master. The old gentleman nodded. "Well, then go with the nurturing chi pill." The other 2 officers, the young man and the woman, did not show any reaction to the decision of the old man. Every day there were disciples applying to return to the sect, and the procedure was indeed set. Han Yi took a deep breath upon hearing the old man's instruction. He retreated a few steps, took out his hexagonal bronze pill furnace from his storage bag, and laid out the materials for the nurturing chi pill, which he had just bought. After that, he prepared the spirit sand, spirit coal, and various auxiliary materials one by one. And then, he started to refine the pill on the spot. This was the return to sect examination procedure, simple and direct. Chapter 22, Returning to Lingshu. Ignite Dan fire, adjust spirit sand, transfer mana, fuse spiritual medicine. Alchemy has every step containing an incomparable amount of detailed knowledge. When Han Yi used spirit coal to ignite the Dan fire, among the 3 people supervising from above, the elderly one's eyes brightened. That smooth handling was a remarkable sign of a well-experienced alchemist. The elderly man subconsciously took a closer look at Han Yi. The red-faced young man in his 30s and the plump woman in her 40s also shifted their attention from indifference to Han Yi, nodding their heads slightly in approval. But they didn't say anything. There were still some disciples who passed the assessment to join the sect. Within a short period, Han Yi withdrew his mana, tapped his palm, and lifted the lid of the pill furnace, releasing a Dan chi aroma. Inside the furnace, 10 white nurturing chi pills the size of fingernails lay quietly. Han Yi took out a jade bottle he had prepared earlier, and with a single hand movement, he directly drew the nurturing chi pills into the bottle and then handed it to the elderly man. The old man took out 1 pill, observed it, smelled it, and then directly ingested it. After sensing it for a while, the elderly man revealed a satisfied expression on his face. Nurturing chi pills, 10 Dan complete. The quality is within the normal range, but it's already excellent among them. With further refinement, it could achieve standard quality. Good, very good. What is your name? Han Yi was overjoyed when he heard this, and he quickly replied, to answering Uncle Master, this disciple's name is Han Yi. Good, very good. The elderly man handed the jade bottle to the other 2 supervisors, and they both appraised it with the same method as the elder. A moment later, they all nodded in satisfaction. Apparently, they approved the elderly man's final evaluation of Han Yi's work. Good, you have passed the assessment to join the sect. I am the Vice Master of Little Green Cloud Peak, Shen Yu. If you want to find a better place as your residence, you can come to Qingyan Peak tomorrow, and I will arrange it for you, said the elderly man. As soon as the elderly man finished speaking, the other two spoke to Han Yi for the first time since he entered the room. The man in his 30s with a friendly red face laughed and said, "My name is Luo Qi from Little Raging Fire Peak. Our peak's strength ranks in the top 10 among the outer peaks. If you are interested, you can also look for me, and I will transfer you to Little Raging Fire Peak." The plump woman covered her mouth and chuckled, also extending an invitation. Little Guanai Peak has many female disciples. I can introduce you to them if you come. Although Han Yi's face showed happiness, there was a chill in his heart. He had originally thought that he had already held back enough. If he had gone all out in alchemy, he could have made standard quality nurturing chi pills. However, that would be too shocking. Because standard quality pills can only be refined by a few high-stage alchemists in the chi cultivation stage, even if placed in the inner sect, they would still be considered the best. Imagine that within a year, just by his alchemy skills alone, he would have transformed from a low-level alchemist in the outer sect to the most outstanding alchemist in the inner sect. The gap is not ordinary and would be hard to achieve even with a lifetime of struggle for most outer sect disciples. It would be difficult not to arouse some people's curiosity and interest. For example, guessing that he had obtained some mysterious inheritance, there would certainly be many people who would want to seize it and replace him. Under the circumstances of insufficient strength, exposing his terrifying alchemy skills would make Han Yi feel insecure. Seeing Han Yi's delight on his face, the elderly man laughed lightly. "All right, the assessment is over for today. You passed, take the assessment token and return to Vermilion Bird Peak to complete the procedures. As for the subsequent decision, which outer peak you want to join is up to your personal preference." The elderly man didn't try to sway Han Yi's decision. Neither did the other two say anything. They just thought Han Yi's alchemy skills were outstanding and on par with some of the inner sect disciples, which is why they had a sudden impulse to recruit him. There were hundreds of outer peaks in the Xuanden sect, each competing for disciples and resources. Strictly speaking, disciples are also a resource and the most important one at that. Han Yi gratefully looked at the elderly man, remembering his name, Shen Yu, and took the assessment token. After expressing his gratitude, Han Yi cautiously retreated from the room. As Han Yi walked out of the alchemy hall, he took a deep breath, feeling invigorated. Looking at the misty cloud sea surrounding the Black Tortoise Peak, his state of mind was different from the shock he felt when he first saw the cloud sea after his initial transmigration. At this moment, his emotions were already turbulent. "Haha, Hu Hansen, am back. In the future, I will endure until the end of time, until I have no rivals left in this world, until I become an immortal. I will never leave the mountain again." Han Yi secretly made up his mind. Many returning disciples who had passed the sect assessment looked at Han Yi in envy, guessing that he had passed the exam as well. Even the sociable young man who exited the alchemy hall earlier than him, but still felt a little bit unwilling, watched Han Yi with jealousy. But he didn't provoke him, as that would only bring trouble upon himself. Little Raging Fire Peak, Luo Qi, I've heard this name before. When I first came to this world, Brother Guandi gave me a task to complete, to go to Little Raging Fire Peak and become a pill tester for Luo Qi. As Han Yi walked back to Little Lingshu Peak, the name of that red-faced young man appeared in his mind, along with a piece of information. As for the woman in her 40s who came from Small Guanai Peak, Han Yi also knew about it, one of the peaks with the most female disciples in the outer sect. Han Yi shook his head, worrying about his future for now and not considering the issue of finding a Taoist partner. In fact, at this moment, when he calmed down, he seriously thought about going to Little Green Cloud Peak. Shen Yu, as the deputy peak master of Little Green Cloud Peak, is definitely a cultivator at the 9th stage of chi cultivation. With his recommendation, Han Yi would have someone to rely on in Little Green Cloud Peak, making his life more comfortable than in Little Lingshu Peak. But he quickly changed his mind, thinking that if he owed someone a favor, there might be other troubles after going to Little Green Cloud Peak. Moreover, Little Green Cloud Peak and Little Lingshu Peak are both outer peaks, and their spirit vein grade is only 2nd stage, not much higher than Little Lingshu Peak. If it were an inner peak, he would definitely have said nothing and leaned on them directly. Besides, the most important point is that Han Yi just needs a stable environment. Whether it's Little Lingshu Peak or Little Green Cloud Peak, they are both outer peaks, and they are the same to him. So why bother? He decides to endure for a while and see. When he returned to Vermilion Bird Peak, he had already made up his mind, found the on-duty brother, handed over his examination token, and explained the situation. The on-duty brother looked surprised and smiled, helping Han Yi with the procedures. Congratulations, Brother Han, on rejoining the sect. I'm sure you will achieve great things and make a name for yourself in the future. According to experience, those who have caught the eyes of the Alchemy Hall management, returning from being an external disciple to becoming an outer sect disciple, will have their alchemy skills significantly improved. Such people are worth making friends with just for their alchemy skills. I was lucky, just lucky. What's your name, brother? The on-duty brother smiled and replied, I am Ma Yu. Brother Ma, could you help me check whether my previous courtyard has been assigned to someone else or not? If it hasn't, can I apply to return to my original courtyard? Han Yi is a nostalgic person. If he could return to his original courtyard, he would naturally feel more comfortable. Ma Yu nodded, checked the information, and smiled. Coincidentally, it is still available. Han Yi was overjoyed upon hearing this. He instantly understood why. His courtyard was relatively on the periphery and even near the back mountain. Only new disciples with low status and abilities would be passively assigned to such a place. But Han Yi didn't mind, as long as it was a second-stage spiritual vein, that would be enough. He has a lot of spirit stones. Brother Ma, could you help me apply to get my courtyard back? No problem, I'll get it done right away. Ma Yu complied and began to take down related information. He then went into the room to get the certificate for Han Yi's original courtyard. A moment later, all the procedures were completed, and he handed the documents to Han Yi. Han Yi repeatedly thanked him, and Ma Yu was also very satisfied. This was tantamount to this junior brother owing him a favor. If one day this junior brother rose to prominence, this favor would be of some benefit to him. That was also the reason why he spared no effort to help Han Yi. Being in this hall manager position has this advantage. On the other side, Han Yi left Vermilion Bird Peak and headed straight to Little Lingshu Peak. Only when he returned to his familiar courtyard and activated the courtyard's separate array formation did he finally fully relax. Chapter 23. Resolving Inner Tensions. The size of this courtyard on Little Lingshu Peak was significantly larger than the one in Mengshan City. Especially the backyard, it was several hundred square feet, with various fruit trees and tea trees planted. The courtyard also contained several quiet rooms. However, Han Yi usually only practiced in the one that the Sword Immortal painting was hanging in, and rarely used the others. First, Han Yi patrolled the courtyard, mainly to confirm its safety. After all, he had been away for a year, and since this courtyard didn't have an owner, the protective array had not been activated, and anyone could potentially sneak in. As for those from the law enforcement hall who were assigned to inspect the vacant courtyards, they hardly had time for such matters. Of course, if there were any disciples secretly hiding in the vacant courtyard because they didn't want to go down the mountain, assuming they would go unnoticed, that would be a different story. If they were reported or caught, they would be directly expelled from the sect, left with their cultivation base destroyed and ejected from the mountain. This was a rule within the sect. You can only take what is given to you. If something doesn't belong to you but is left unused, and you take it forcefully, then you would lose your hands. Han Yi has always been a person who followed rules. After ensuring the safety of the courtyard, he did not isolate himself to continue cultivating or lean on the taskbar like he did in Mengshan City. Instead, he for once, left the courtyard. The courtyards of the Xuanden sect didn't require a formation disk to control like in Mengshan City. In these courtyards, there was a central hub. By channeling spirit energy into this hub, one would become the master of the courtyard. The courtyard master could control the courtyard array merely by his thoughts, as long as they were within the courtyard. Of course, this control was limited to the most basic functions such as turning the protective array on or off. However, the array was connected to the spirit vein of Little Lingshu Peak, which was much higher in its origin. Even its basic functions could resist attacks from cultivators below the foundation establishment stage. After leaving the courtyard, Han Yi went straight to Zheng Hai's courtyard. Zheng Hai's residence was not on Little Lingshu Peak, but on the adjacent Little Pan Stone Peak. When Han Yi knocked on the door of Little Pan Stone Peak for some time and no one answered, he knew that Zheng Hai must be either engrossed in cultivation or pill refining, or he was not in the courtyard because he was out on business. Never mind then, I'll come back in a few days to share the good news of my return. At that time, I'll invite Zheng Hai to celebrate at the Drunken Immortal Tower. Han Yi felt a bit regretful that he couldn't visit the Drunken Immortal Tower today. The Drunken Immortal Tower is a renowned tavern in the Outer Peaks. The alcohol served there was made from precious pills and elixirs, containing abundant spirit energy. It was extremely expensive, and Han Yi dared not set foot in it even though he had heard and seen it since he joined the sect. This time, his return to the sect filled him with joy, and with money in his pockets, it was worth inviting his good friend to celebrate. Oh, there's also Brother Guandi. Thinking of Guandi, Han Yi couldn't help but recall his guilt towards Guan Sheng back in Mengshan City, making him slightly hesitant. A moment later, he decided to seek out Guandi and clarify things. This was one of his hang-ups that he had to address. Guandi was originally also on Little Pan Stone Peak, but after he advanced to the 5th level of Qi cultivation, he moved to Little Dragon Whisker Peak, which ranks among the top 3 in the Outer Peaks. After he progressed to the 6th level, he even got the opportunity to serve at Vermilion Bird Peak. This position was lucrative and could help him build more connections and gain more favors. Many disciples at the 6th level of the Outer Peaks did their best to get this position. After leaving Little Pan Stone Peak, Han Yi went straight to Little Dragon Whisker Peak. This time he did not make a wasted trip. Guandi was indeed in his courtyard. And had not gone out. Brother Guandi, I've passed the sect re-entry exam. Han Yi didn't waste any words, he shared his joy with a happy face. No matter what, it was Guandi who had helped him find a solution and arranged for him to be sent to Mengshan City. Although the incident with Zhongde happened whilst there, he never doubted Guandi. Guandi was taken aback when he heard this, but he quickly showed a smile. Congratulations, Junior Brother Han. After some congratulations, Guandi handed over a letter. That's right, Junior Brother Han, I was planning to look for you. I didn't expect you to come here first. A few days ago, I received a letter from my cousin. He said that you didn't keep your word and left without a word. Could there be some misunderstanding in this? Han Yi felt a bit ashamed upon hearing this. After dealing with the incident with Zhongde, he did doubt whether Guan Sheng had some other intentions towards him in his heart. However, he didn't have any solid evidence, and from the surface, Guan Sheng was very good to him. Now that Guan Sheng had sent a letter directly mentioning his breach of promise, it was hard for him to argue. Elder Brother Guan, here is the situation. At the time when Elder Brother Guan Sheng entrusted me with a task, I was in the key period of perceiving alchemy, which interfered with the matter of Elder Brother Guan Sheng. After coming out of seclusion, I felt embarrassed to face Elder Brother Guan Sheng directly and had to leave without saying goodbye. By the way, these are the pills I agreed to return to Uncle Guan Sheng, and here are my compensatory gifts. This is all I have, please help me deliver them to Elder Brother Guan Sheng. Han Yi took out 3 bottles of the Exorcise Evil Spirits pills that he had prepared earlier, based on the assumption that his success rate in making these pills was 1.5%. And he didn't go for the 8-to-2 ratio of sharing, but instead gave everything to Guan Sheng. He then took out 3 bottles of Nurturing Qi pills, which were of average quality of course. He wouldn't dare to show the pills of standard quality right now, fearing that he may attract unwanted attention. Guandi frowned, picked up the Exorcise Evil Spirits pills and the Nurturing Qi pills, examined them, and then relaxed his brows. You little rascal are not bad. The quality of these pills, I cannot guarantee that I could obtain. Your alchemy skills have improved so much, no wonder you could pass the sect returning test that quickly. And, you are now at the 3rd stage of Qi cultivation. No, looking at your aura, you should not be far from the 4th stage. I didn't expect that after being deployed for a year, both your alchemy and cultivation base have made such big improvements, one could say you have been reborn. Alright, I will deliver the pills. We are all family, there should not be much conflict, even if there is some, there is no need to be too calculating, I will tell my clan uncle. Seeing that Guandi accepted the pills, Han Yi breathed a sigh of relief. This matter can be considered as more than halfway done. For the rest, when he becomes stronger in the future, he will take the opportunity to make more compensation. At the end, Guandi stopped Han Yi, who was about to leave. There's one more thing, Brother Han, do you want to move to the Little Dragon Whisker Peak? With your reborn alchemy skills, if you move over, you would definitely get a better courtyard, and the Peak Lords would also look after you. Han Yi politely declined, and although Guandi felt regretful, he did not force it and let the matter rest. Back in the Little Lingshu Peak, activating the array in the courtyard, Han Yi began to cultivate. His goal this time is clear, 4th stage of Qi cultivation. He is only 1 step away from this realm. In addition, having entrusted Guandi with the pills, and finally settled one of the lingering matters in Mengshan City, he has cleared his mind, and attained perfection in his mindset. Moreover, he had previously rented a cultivation room on the Little Lingshu Peak for 10 days, and although he didn't deliberately push the progress, his spiritual power had reached 94/100ths. Everything is ready, all that remains is the final step. In the quiet room within the courtyard, Han Yi took out all the remaining spirit stones, nurturing chi pills, exorcise evil spirits pills. First, he took 4 exorcise evil spirits pills, thought for a while, felt that it wasn't safe enough, and took 2 more. Then, he activated the spiritual power of the spirit stones placed around him. Suddenly, the entire enclosed quiet room was filled with rolling spiritual energy, reaching the intensity of a 3rd-stage spirit vein in a short period of time. Such wastage was unimaginable to other outer disciples. But for Han Yi, all spirit stones are for breakthroughs. If he didn't use them now, then when? Wasting a little was worth it. Boom! The rolling spirit energy coursed into his body, compressed and gathered, and transformed into spiritual power in his body. Moving towards the next level, he continued to advance. What Han Yi, who was in seclusion for a breakthrough on the Little Lingshu Peak, didn't know was that a few days later, thousands of miles away in Mengshan City, Guansheng received a letter and items from Guandi. After reading the letter, he looked at the pills on the table. Guansheng was silent for a long time. Chapter 24. Cultivating Qi at the 4th level. Guansheng fell silent, and it took him a long time before he let out a sigh. Did I really overthink it? Was that kid really experiencing alchemy enlightenment that day, and not deliberately avoiding me by staying indoors? And he left early without saying goodbye because he felt guilty towards me. Zhangda's matter has nothing to do with him. It seems reasonable, but it also seems somewhat wrong. Guansheng racked his brain but couldn't figure out the truth. Never mind, Guandi doesn't know about my situation, so the content of his letter should be true. Regardless of whether the kid's words are true or not, I can only accept it. Or rather, for now, I can only treat his words as true. Guansheng put away the pill in front of him and temporarily set aside his intention to kill Han Yi. There's no need for more trouble. If there's an opportunity in the future, we'll see then. On the other hand, about half a month later, inside a quiet room within the courtyard where Han Yi resides at Little Lingshu Peak, the Sword Immortal Sword Control Scroll is hanging on the wall. In the center of the quiet room, a young man in his early 20s sits on a cushion, with shattered spirit stones scattered around him. At some point, the spirit stones surge and tremble like they're breathing. Then all the spirit energy is crazily compressed and absorbed into the body of the young man sitting in the center, just like a whale inhaling and gulping water. Of course, the young man is Han Yi. He suddenly opens his eyes, and a void with a white light flashes by. The light disappears in an instant as if it was just an illusion. Huff! Han Yi exhales a long, cloudy breath, which lasts for a long time before it finally stops. With the release of this cloudy breath, a cultivator's aura unique to the 4th level of Qi cultivation flows out from him. This aura might not be stable yet, but there's no doubt that it has reached the standard of the 4th level. 4th level of Qi cultivation, finally achieved. A smile of joy spreads across Han Yi's face. After more than a year of crossing over, he has finally completed the first cultivation threshold, that is, advancing from the low stage of Qi cultivation to the middle stage of Qi cultivation. Han Yi doesn't stop there. He consolidates his cultivation base until he feels that his aura has stabilized, and then stops. By this time, 2 months have passed since he closed himself off for cultivation. Time flies when cultivating. He's gradually getting used to it. After consolidating his cultivation base, Han Yi checks the items on his body and sighs. Cultivation costs too much money. At this moment, there are only a dozen spirit stones left on his body. Considering the fortune he had saved up earlier, as well as the spirit stones and spirit sand materials obtained from Zhangda's storage bag, it was only enough to sustain him for such a short period of time. You have to know, including the spirit stones he had on him, there were nearly 200. Even in Xuanden sect, only relatively wealthy outer disciples of the 5th or 6th level could accumulate such wealth over a long period of time. Considering other 3rd and 4th level outer disciples who practice frugally every day, it's no wonder that it's extremely difficult for them to advance in their realms. Han Yi sighs, not because he's worried about his upcoming cultivation, but because he feels empathy towards the difficulty faced by the outer disciples while cultivating. However, this is no longer an issue for him. Before going for the assessment, he had purchased 30 sets of nurturing Qi pill materials and 20 sets of exorcise evil spirits pill materials. During the assessment process, he only used one set of nurturing chi pill materials and still had many raw materials available for alchemy. These are his startup capital. What he relies on, of course, is his alchemy skill. First, he looks at the proficiency panel after breaking through. Name, Han Yi. Lifespan, 22/93. Realm, 4th layer of Qi cultivating 1/100th. Cultivation technique, Fire profound skill proficiency 48/100. Skills, Alchemy skill enter the hall 78/100. Spirit void finger mastering 1/100. Sword control skill peeking through the doorway 34/100. Closing square bracket. Seeing the realm clearly showing Qi cultivating 4th layer, his face was filled with relief. It was truly not easy. After that, he looked up. My lifespan increased by 4 years, from 89 to 93. And, unknowingly, a year has already passed. I'm 22 now. Han Yi suddenly thought of his family in the other world, feeling as if something was stuck in his throat. A moment later, he adjusted his mindset and looked at the panel again. The enter the hall of my alchemy skill has progressed to 78/100 proficiency. If this skill advanced to the mastering level like the spirit void finger, would it mean that the pills I refine would always be of standard quality or above? Upon thinking this, Han Yi's heart raced. Keep in mind, in the Xuanden sect, only the most outstanding disciples of the inner peak were generally able to refine standard quality pills. Furthermore, not every furnace could produce standard quality pills. When that time came, it would mean that apart from his cultivation base, Han Yi's pill refining skills would be more than enough to join the inner peak. He wouldn't go to Little Dragon Whisker Peak, Little Green Cloud Peak or Little Raging Fire Peak, as they were all outer peaks. But if there was an opportunity to enter the inner peak, he would strive for it with all his might. Of course, this would require him to guarantee his own safety and not expose his terrifying alchemy skills prematurely. Otherwise, his cultivation base of the 4th layer of Qi cultivating would be like a sheep entering a wolf pack when going to the inner peak where the majority had at least the 7th layer of Qi cultivating. He might even be completely devoured, leaving behind nothing. For now, it's best to lay low. Han Yi thought. With the help of the proficiency panel, he had a comprehensive understanding of his current situation. As a result, he was very satisfied. Afterward, Han Yi began refining pills, benefiting from his enter the hall level alchemy skill. He now succeeded in refining nurturing Qi pills 80% of the time, occasionally producing some standard quality nurturing Qi pills. Additionally, his success rate for refining exorcise evil spirits pill had reached 30%. This time, in good condition, he successfully refined 7 of the 20 exorcise evil spirits pills, 2 more than when he was in Mengshan City. In part, it was due to his increased power and improved pill refining skills. The other reason was because, upon returning to Little Lingshu Peak, he felt as comfortable as being home, and his performance was at its best. Using less than half a month's time, he had refined all the pills. During this process, whenever his spiritual power was depleted, he quickly recovered using the remaining spirit stones. Half a month later, the final spirit stone on Han Yi crumbled to dust, and before him lay 23 bottles of nurturing Qi pills and 7 bottles of exorcise evil spirits pills, among which there were 3 bottles of standard quality pills. This was his current net worth. After organizing his things, he left the courtyard, only to meet Zheng Hai looking for him. Well, Han Yi, I heard that you passed the assessment and returned to the sect. How did you do it? Zheng Hai's face was as dark as ever. Instead of directly answering, Han Yi took a good look at Zheng Hai, smiling, not bad, you've reached Qi cultivating 3rd layer. Zheng Hai's aura had reached the 3rd layer of Qi cultivating, and it seemed that he had broken through for about half a year now. When Han Yi left the mountain back then, Zheng Hai was at the peak of the 2nd layer of Qi cultivating, preparing to break through to the 3rd layer. Seeing his breakthrough now, Han Yi was naturally happy for him. Speaking of which, in his past life, Han Yi probably had only 1.5 friends in this world, Zheng Hai being one and Guandi half. Of course, it took me all my effort to break through to the 3rd layer. But Han Yi, what's up with your aura? Zheng Hai frowned. The aura on Han Yi was similar to that of the 4th layer of Qi cultivating disciples he had seen from the outer peaks. But how could that be possible? It had only been a year, and it seemed like he had become a completely different person. Han Yi grinned. In front of his friends, he absolutely enjoyed flaunting himself. You're not mistaken, I'm at the 4th layer of Qi cultivating. And not only that, my alchemy skill has also broken through. Now, I can easily refine nurturing chi pills. Don't even mention 100 points. Right now, several high-ranking outer peak chi cultivating senior brothers have invited me to live with them, and I've rejected them all. In the future, not only the outer peaks but even the inner peaks will have a place for me. What is the fourth layer of chi cultivating? Achieving the high chi cultivation is just a matter of time. Immortal Path Foundation building is no longer a dream. Don't worry, I'll take you to fly in the future. These words from Han Yi sent waves of shock through Zheng Hai's heart. Chapter 25. Female Cultivator Visit. Seeing the astonishment on Zheng Hai's face, Han Yi felt secretly pleased in his heart. Really? Are you serious? Zheng Hai asked further. Han Yi nodded. Of course it's true, even Brother Guandi said that my alchemy skills are quite strong, and it's only through a breakthrough in alchemy that I was able to pass the sect evaluation, or else how could I have made it through? Under Han Yi's repeated assurances, Zheng Hai temporarily believed it. Han Yi, this is too amazing of you. It's like you've become a different person in just 1 year. Words not intended, but the listener took it to heart. Han Yi's proud heart trembled at once. In the cultivation world, if someone truly noticed the huge difference between him in the past and now, and was interested in him, and this person was a cultivator in the late stage of chi cultivation or even foundation establishment stage, then he would be in a lot of trouble. It won't work. For the next few years, he needs to lay low and not be too ostentatious. Han Yi is a cautious person. At this moment, he was already very grateful that he didn't impulsively agree to join Little Green Cloud Peak's acting peak master, Shen Yu, or Guandi, and expose himself under the scrutiny of even more people, which would be like magnifying glass on him, making it easier to reveal his secrets. By the way, where did you go a while ago? I went to look for you at Little Pan Stone Peak, but no one responded. Zheng Hai shook his head. I had something to do and went out. Let's not talk about that. Let's go, you're back now, let's go for a few drinks. Han Yi was just about to offer to take Zheng Hai to the Drunken Immortal Tower to celebrate, but on second thought, he didn't even have a single spirit stone in his pocket, only the freshly made pills. Don't worry, I'll treat you. Seeing the difficulty on Han Yi's face, Zheng Hai immediately patted his chest. It was Han Yi's turn to play the part. In his heart, Zheng Hai still subconsciously regarded Han Yi as a friend with a lack of spirit stones and a tight life, so naturally, it was his duty to treat him. Han Yi didn't refuse either, waiting for when he sold the pills, refined more pills to sell, and earned spirit stones to pay back next time. Between the two of them, there was no need for such restraint. There were hundreds of outer peaks in the Xuanden sect, with every peak having at least a few hundred disciples, some even going up to 3,000. It was as if every outer peak was a small society. So, almost every mountain peak had a tavern, varying in sizes, including one on Little Lingshu Peak called the Little Lingshu Building. Spending 32 spirit sand, they picked up 2 small wooden barrels of spirit fruit wine and started drinking in the Little Lingshu Building. In their past memories, the two of them would meet here almost every year. Chatting while drinking, most of the time it was Zheng Hai talking about the anecdotes of the Xuanden sect, which senior brother had advanced to the 7th level, which inner disciple had built the Immortal Path Foundation, which senior brother had found a pretty Tao companion and regressed instead of advancing in cultivation within a year, women truly were a calamity, and so on. By the way, Han Yi, have you had any interesting experiences during your year away from the mountain? Tell me about it. None. What kind of interesting things could I have? I was just refining pills and cultivating, it's extremely boring. I haven't been out for more than 2 or 3 days, and that's how I was able to improve so quickly, all because of my diligent cultivation. I guess so, haha. The spirit fruit wine in the Little Lingshu Building was just average in terms of effect, even when they could afford it in the past when they were at the 2nd level of chi cultivation. This thing was not priced high, and although the fruit wine contained spirit energy, it wasn't very effective, and not much could be truly absorbed. After finishing their drinks, they each went back to their homes. Han Yi first went to Vermilion Bird Peak. He exchanged all the pills he had for sect points. 9 bottles of Exorcise Evil Spirits pills, 7 of which were freshly made this time, and 2 were left over from last time. He had used a bottle of it when breaking through to the Chi Cultivation 4th level. 20 bottles of Nurturing Chi pills. In total, he exchanged them for 3,500 sect points. According to the ratio of sect points to spirit stones, at a 10-to-1 rate, this would equal 350 spirit stones. The person on duty at Vermilion Bird Hall was still Brother Ma Yu, who had administered his evaluation last time. Junior brother Han, this is a huge sum for you. I've saved up for so many years, and my assets are only 1,000 spirit stones. You suddenly have assets equivalent to 30% of mine. I'm envious. Ma Yu sighed. Han Yi humbly said, Brother Ma, these pills are the result of my hard work over the past year, otherwise, I wouldn't have so many. I don't know when I'll have the next batch of pills. Ma Yu nodded. This was more reasonable. If Han Yi casually refined so many high-quality pills within just 2 months, that would be unbelievable. After Han Yi had exchanged all his points for 200 spirit stones and alchemy materials and walked out of the administrative hall, his brows suddenly furrowed. I can't come here again in a short time. Next time, I'll have to go to the market at the outer peaks. In the Xuanden sect, there is an official trading platform, which is the administrative hall, using points as the intermediary currency. There is also a semi-official trading platform, which is the market. There are a total of 18 markets set up among the 100 outer peaks, and behind these markets are the higher-ups of the sect, including Foundation Establishment Stage and even Golden Core Stage cultivators. These markets are similar to the Lei family's market in Mengshan City, only fairer and with very few robberies happening. This is a bottom line within the sect. After all, stability is the foundation for maintaining rule. The reason why Han Yi had such thoughts was because of what Ma Yu had just said. With his terrifying success rate in pill refining and a continuous supply of pills, it would be troublesome to constantly use the sect's administrative hall as the middleman. As long as someone investigates or even notices like Ma Yu did, coming a few more times would easily deduce Han Yi's success rate in alchemy. At that time, it would inevitably cause trouble. Han Yi hated trouble the most. If he goes through the semi-official trading platform of the sect, there are no records, and although the price will be lower, it is more concealed and safe. This was Han Yi's thought just now. Besides, it's time to acquire a few more pill formulas. The Nurturing Chi pill and the Exorcise Evil Spirits pill are too simple. Next time, I'll look in the market and see if there are any higher level pill formulas to buy. In addition, the market also offers magic skills for purchase, which I should also pay attention to. One plan after another in Han Yi's heart was well arranged. He liked this feeling of being in control of everything. When he returned to Little Lingshu Peak with all these thoughts, he saw 2 female cultivators at the entrance. He didn't recognize them from far away. In fact, Han Yi didn't know any female cultivators in Xuanden sect. As Han Yi approached, one of the 2 female cultivators asked with a salute. Excuse me, are you junior brother Han? The voice was ethereal and gentle, very pleasant to hear. Han Yi subconsciously nodded and observed the other party. Both of these female cultivators were dressed in the gray robes of outer disciples. The one who spoke had a smile on her face, was about 1.7 meters tall, had soft facial features, radiant eyes, and long hair draped over her shoulders, which accentuated her slender body under the gray robe. This female cultivator, judging by her looks and voice, seemed to be 3 or 4 years older than Han Yi. As for the other one, she had an explosive figure with voluptuous curves but a more ordinary face and cold demeanor. Senior sisters, may I know who you are? Han Yi saluted back. Nice to meet you, junior brother Han. I am Chu Jinmo, and this is my junior sister, Yan Ru. We are from Small Guanai Peak. The ethereal-voiced female cultivator named Chu Jinmo introduced them. Small Guanai Peak, what brings you here? Han Yi's brows furrowed. He knew about Small Guanai Peak. It was one of the places with the most female cultivators in the outer peaks. The 2 in front of him, one with a pleasant voice and beautiful appearance, and the other with an explosive figure, were certainly eye-catching. However, he couldn't figure out how he was related to them in any way. Chapter 26, Peaceful Days. Translator. 549,690,339. Junior brother Han Yi, we're here especially waiting for you. We heard from Uncle Chi that you passed the sect returning assessment, so we're inviting you to move to Little Guanai Peak. Chu Jinmo didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Ilan Yi's eyebrows relaxed, and he guessed it was probably just this matter. I'm sorry, I've thought about it a lot after returning, and one don't plan to move for now. Han Yi cupped his hands together, expressing his thoughts. Wouldn't junior brother Han Yi like to reconsider it? Moving to Little Guanai Peak would not only get you a bigger courtyard, but also many junior sisters, so you definitely won't lack companions. Chu Jinmo didn't expect Han Yi's attitude to be so determined, refusing right from the start, and her tone became anxious. No, I won't reconsider. If there's nothing else, you 2 can leave. Han Yi bowed his hands and walked past Chu Jinmo, smelling a faint fragrance on her body. Then, he opened the door of the courtyard, walked in, and closed it heavily. Without any hesitation, "Senior sister, let's go." His attitude is firm, evidently not willing to move, and he doesn't seem to care that much about companions. The advantages of my little Guanai peak don't exist for him, so there's nothing to discuss. Behind Chu Jinmo, the voluptuous Yan Ru analyzed expressionlessly. Chu Jinmo sighed. In the sect, there aren't many outer disciples like Han Yi who have low cultivation realms but high alchemy skills. If he could live in our little Guanai peak, it would bring many benefits to us. What a pity, what a pity. Let's go. The two left, and Han Yi, separated by a wall, didn't eavesdrop on their conversation. It was only after confirming that they had left that he returned to his meditation chamber. Little Guanai Peak personally invited me. Will little Fiery Fire Peak and little Green Cloud Peak also come to invite me? I must reject them outright, not allowing them to have the slightest possibility of hope. Only then can one put an end to future troubles. Having made up his mind, Han Yi didn't start refining pills but went to the backyard to practice sword control skill. Sword control skill early insight 34/100. This sword control skill was obtained from the Lei family market in Mengshan City, costing Han Yi dozens of spirit stones. Although it was an incomplete version, by the time it was promoted from beginner's first attempt to early insight it had given Han Yi countless insights. To be more precise, this sword control skill had progressed beyond the original version and become completely new. And this, after summarizing Spirit Void Finger and sword control skill, Han Yi discovered another secret about proficiency. That is, he can complete a magic skill by constantly filling the progress bar. In short, after obtaining the incomplete version of the sword control skill, Han Yi filled the progress of the skill through the proficiency system and completed the skill. Since returning from Mengshan City, he had arranged a full schedule for himself, from cultivating magic skills to refining pills. Now, he had a choice, whether to practice magic skills or refine pills. Han Yi's first choice was to practice sword control skill. In Mengshan City, he had only practiced it to the beginning stage, advancing the proficiency of sword control skill to the early insight stage of 34/100. Next, he planned to practice sword control skill, refine pills, sell the pills in the market for spirit stones, and then cultivate with the spirit stones. After promoting sword control skill and alchemy skill to mastering, he would advance all three magic skills together, striving for the next realm. Time slowly passed as Han Yi cultivated. The days became calm and settled for him. During this period, as he had speculated, people from Little Green Cloud Peak and Little Fiery Fire Peak also came to invite him to live there, but he declined them all. The peak master of Little Lingshu Peak learned about Han Yi's situation from some source and, in order to keep him, granted him a set of light body technique and wanted to provide a better courtyard for him. However, Han Yi refused. Also, having acquired spirit stones, Han Yi did not invite Zheng Hai to celebrate at Drunken Immortal Tower as he had originally planned. Instead, he kept a low profile. Because Han Yi had some lingering fear, revealing only a part of his alchemy skills had attracted the attention of multiple outer peaks. If he were to display his wealth too, it would undoubtedly draw even more attention from those with ulterior motives. The cultivation environment of the outer peaks is relatively safe, but it's not 100% safe. From time to time, some malicious incidents happen. If there's an opportunity, some high-ranking disciples don't mind playing the role of robbers. After all, as long as they're not caught, who knows what they've done? After ale, it's killing and robbery with a golden waistband. 3 months later, Little Guanai Peak, Han Yi walked into a room, in which stood more than a dozen female cultivators. Junior brother Han has arrived. We've been waiting for you for a long time. Chu Jinmo stood up, her long hair today tied up in a bun, revealing an even more enchanting face, still wearing the gray robe of an outer disciple. Sister Chu, hello to all of you. Han Yi bowed his hands. The female cultivators in front of him were at least at the 4th layer of Qi cultivation, most of them at the 5th layer, and there were even people like Chu Jinmo at the 6th layer of Qi cultivation present. Alright, let's not waste time with small talk, we have already made the purpose of your invitation clear, so let's get started. Yan Ru's face, as always, showed little expression. At her words, the many sisters in the room fixed their shining eyes on Han Yi. Being stared at by so many female cultivators, Han Yi was honestly a bit nervous, and it took him some time to steady his mind and slowly speak. Today is our first transaction, and I've brought a portion of the pills I've saved up over the past year. They are the Exorcising Evil Spirits pill and the Nurturing Qi pill. Although there are not many types, please rest assured, my exorcising evil spirits pill and nurturing chi pill are definitely of excellent quality among ordinary pills and can play an important role in the cultivation of the 5th and 6th layers of chi. You can identify them on the spot. Han Yi walked to a table and took out 10 bottles of nurturing chi pills and 5 bottles of exorcising evil spirits pills he had prepared from his storage bag. Today, he was invited by Chu Jinmo to sell his pills privately on the small Guanai Peak. Over 2 months ago, after Han Yi had refused Chu Jinmo's invitation to move to small Guanai Peak, she did not give up but came to him in the following days. Finally, after understanding Chu Jinmo's needs, Han Yi had an idea. He had some surplus pills that needed to be sold in the market. The disciples of small Guanai Peak happened to need to buy pills, and they wanted to avoid the market and official channels and use private channels instead with the hope of getting them at a cheaper price. After all, the official and market channels meant middlemen making a profit, but private transactions eliminated these intermediary fees and indirectly reduced the cost. Today was the agreed-upon day for the private transaction with Chu Jinmo. The objects of the transaction were the female cultivators in the middle stage of chi cultivating on small Guanai Peak. On the scene, after Han Yi set out the pills, the female cultivators came forward one after another, pouring the pills out of the jade bottles, smelling, pinching, and observing them. The more they appraised, the brighter their eyes became. Not bad, the quality is really good. This is even better than what I bought in the market. No wonder Uncle Chi said your alchemy skill is very strong. I wonder if Brother Han has a Dao partner. Surrounded by the female cultivators, Han Yi remained calm and composed, not answering the question about the Dao partner. He had learned that the Uncle Chi mentioned by these female cultivators was that plump middle-aged woman he had encountered during the sex assessment. Only after everyone had appraised the pills did he slowly speak up. According to the market price, 1 nurturing chi pill is about 1.5 spirit stones. Since we are trading privately, it can be cheaper. 10 nurturing chi pills will cost 12 spirit stones, a discount of 3 stones, equivalent to a 20% discount. I think this shows enough sincerity. Besides, as you can all see, the quality of my nurturing chi pills is much better than what's available in the market. As for the exorcising evil spirits pill, the market price is 5 spirit stones, but I'm also offering a 20% discount, so you only need 4. Additionally, there will be no bargaining. We can either make a deal, or I will leave immediately. A moment later, Han Yi walked out of the room with satisfaction, Chu Jinmo following by his side. Sister Chu, I'll leave now. Next time one save more pills, one will inform you about the time for trading. Han Yi bowed his hands, preparing to leave. Inside the room, his voice had just fallen and the pills were sold out within 10 seconds, showing just how popular his pills were at these prices. Alright, on behalf of many younger sisters, one would like to thank Brother Han. Chu Jinmo smiled faintly but continued to ask, by the way, Brother Han, did you happen to see anyone you're interested in among those younger sisters? If you have any preference, you can tell me, and one will play matchmaker for you. Han Yi forced a smile. Sister Chu, with my low realm, I dare not reach for the stars. Chu Jinmo tilted her head and thought, although you are only at the 4th layer of chi cultivation, your alchemy skill is outstanding. With such a skill, you don't have to worry about cultivation resources, so it's only a matter of time before you reach the 5th and 6th layers of chi cultivation. Besides, if one haven't broken through to the 7th layer of chi cultivation by the time you reach the 6th, one might consider becoming your Dao partner. Chu Jinmo's face was serious, while Han Yi hurriedly turned to flee, leaving behind her melodious laughter. In all honesty, Chu Jinmo's appearance and figure were really quite good, and Han Yi was partial to her voice, which scored full marks. However, Han Yi had too many secrets and wasn't suitable to have a Dao partner by his side. So he had to let it go. Han Yi returned to his courtyard, laid out the spirit stones he had obtained from the transaction, and obtained nearly 200 more. Moreover, he still had half of the pills in his hands. He was extra cautious, not taking all the pills out, and used the excuse that this batch was only a part of the inventory he had saved up for over a year. He continued to cultivate. His days became even more peaceful and solid. Han Yi divided his pills into 3 portions. 1 part was exchanged for sect points to buy alchemy materials, 1 part was supplied to the female cultivators of small Guanai Peak, and the last part was sold in the market. In this way, the risk was minimized, and few people had any doubts. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Chapter 27. Robbing Cultivator Blocks the Road. Translator. 549,690,339. 3 years later, Little Luoxia Peak, Luoxia Night Market. A masked man is squatting behind a stall. In front of him is a gray-white cloth about 2 meters wide, on which are placed 4 pill bottles. Next to each bottle is a note with, Nurturing Chi Pill, Exorcise Evil Spirits Pill, Breaking Stage Pill, and, Focus Pill, written on it. People come and go on the market street, now and then someone would squat down to bargain. There are deals made and also people leaving unsatisfied. The masked man is none other than Han Yi. This market is one of the many outer peak markets. At this time, it has been 3 years since Han Yi returned to the sect. During these 3 years, Han Yi traveled to various outer markets and collected more than a dozen different masks. Moreover, every time he sold pills, he would switch to a night market far away from the last one after a few months. In order to minimize risks and avoid being targeted. As night deepens, Han Yi collects the pills and folds the gray-white cloth before leaving. About 200 meters behind him, 3 figures, although not walking together, exchange glances and follow Han Yi at a moderate pace. Han Yi, walking ahead, doesn't notice anything unusual. Over the past 2 years, he has become less vigilant, having never encountered any robbery incidents. As usual, after exiting the enclosed market area, he starts to speed up. Using the light body technique, his body moves swiftly like a flying bird. The trio behind him, upon seeing Han Yi's increased speed, hastily exit the market and chase after him. When they reach the mountainside of Little Luoxia Peak, Han Yi stops. Someone blocks his path. Junior brother, I'm only here to rob you of your wealth. Leave your storage bag and you can go. The person blocking him has a hoarse voice and wears a mask, evidently an experienced robber. Han Yi's inner heart shudders. Over the past 2 years, he has repeatedly imagined in his heart what to do if he encountered a robber. Now that it comes to it, he is indeed somewhat nervous. After all, apart from the sudden encounter with Zhongde in Mengshan City 2 years ago, this is his second actual battle. This time, too, it's an ambush, and the fight comes down to absolute power. Senior brother, Han Yi goes to say more, but suddenly turns his head and looks behind him. 3 figures are rushing towards him at an angle. Not good, it's a pincer attack. They're a group. Han Yi immediately takes action, raising his hand, and flicking 2 fingers in succession. Bang! With his newly advanced late stage of chi cultivation and mastering 90% of spirit void finger skill, these 2 finger strikes produce unimaginable power. The person who was originally blocking Han Yi reveals an ecstatic expression when he sees his accomplices approach. He thinks they've finally caught a big fish. However, in the next moment, he is astonished. No, to say he is astonished is insufficient, it should be described as terror. He sees the big fish flick a finger, and the twinkling spirit light that appears like starlight is suddenly right in front of him. He thinks that with his late stage of chi cultivation, it should not be difficult to handle an attack from someone who has just entered the same stage. So he activates a defensive magic skill, intending to block this strike. The defensive magic skill is called Golden Shield Skill. He has tested it before, and the skill can even withstand a brief attack from someone at the 6th level of cultivation. Unfortunately, the next instant, his pupils suddenly contracted. He could only watch helplessly as the starlight flashed like lightning, piercing through the golden shield he had activated and landing on his body. Before the intense pain came, another streak of starlight followed closely behind. Boom, boom. After flicking his fingers, Han Yi didn't even bother to look at the result. Instead, he quickly merged his index and middle fingers and waved forward. The dagger at his waist in the back suddenly soared into the sky. Whoosh! A breaking sound resonated, and the screams in front of him stopped abruptly. Han Yi dashed forward as fast as lightning, reached out with one hand, and grabbed the storage bag on the chest of the headless corpse with a pierced hole in it. The dagger that had broken through the air had also returned to his waist, trembling slightly and humming softly. After that, instead of lingering in battle, Han Yi pushed the light body technique to its limit, rushing forward and disappearing without a trace after a few leaps. Although he was not afraid of the 3 people behind him, what if more people arrived, or even someone stronger in the late stage of chi cultivation? It's okay to kill robbing cultivators, but by killing so proficiently, he looked more like a robber, and it would not be easy to explain. By the time the trio had arrived here, a strong sense of fear had engulfed them. It was too fast, the battle had ended too quickly. From a distance, they saw starlights flashing, screams erupting, and then everything went silent as the battle ended. Senior brother Zhuang, what should we do? Is Li Kui really dead? He was at the peak of the 5th layer of qi cultivation. Even if he faced the 6th layer, he should be able to resist for a short while. Could the opponent be a 7th layer expert? It's not impossible. The male cultivators on both sides sounded somewhat panic-stricken. Meanwhile, the masked man in the middle, who had just stood up from the squatting position beside the headless corpse and was referred to as senior brother Zhuang, the strongest member of their small team, spoke with a hint of fear in his voice. The opponent is very strong, incredibly strong. In just 2 magic skills, without revealing any specific attributes, he broke through junior brother Li Kui's shield, pierced his chest, and then decapitated him with a sword, clean and neat. Even if one encountered the opponent, my chances of survival would be slim. Even if the opponent isn't in the 7th layer of qi cultivation, he must be at the peak of the 6th layer, and with astonishing combat prowess at that. Let's leave quickly. We cannot stay here for long. This time, it's just junior brother Li Kui's bad luck. The masked man took out a black bottle, poured out a viscous black liquid, and dropped it on the corpse. There was a sizzling sound, and a moment later, only a small pit remained in its original place, with even the bones melted away. Such skilled techniques showed that he had already stepped into the path of robbing cultivators. After that, the trio quickly disappeared. Apart from them and Han Yi, no one knew that a battle had taken place here, nor that a peak 5th layer qi cultivation robber had died. When Han Yi returned to Little Lingshu Peak, he removed his mask, and his heart was still pounding. It took a full quarter of an hour before he calmed down. After he calmed down, he began to summarize this encounter. There were 4 robbers. Fortunately, I was quick-witted. If the 3 behind me had surrounded me, I might have escaped but probably injured. It was too dangerous. I can't risk going to the Luoxia market again. However, my combat prowess isn't bad. Within the 5th layer of qi cultivation, no one can withstand my successive spirit void finger flicks. As for the 6th layer, well, I've never faced one before, and one can't draw conclusions without knowing their methods. As expected, a fight requires strategy, speed, accuracy, ruthlessness. Talking too much can be distracting. Chapter 28. Changes in 3 years. Translator. 549,690,339. After reflecting on this battle experience, Han Yi didn't feel complacent about his victory, but rather felt a lingering fear. Every battle carried risks. If this time he had encountered a late stage of qi cultivating robbing cultivator, he would have most likely lost. Even if he didn't lose, it would be difficult to emerge unscathed. In Han Yi's estimation, he could probably win against a 6th layer of qi cultivating opponent, but of course, this was just an estimate, and the opponent might have strong moves as well. If the opponent's powerful moves could restrain his own, the uncertainty would be even greater. As for facing a 7th layer of qi cultivating opponent, he wouldn't even entertain the thought of victory. Being able to hold his own for a short time would already be considered quite an achievement. Unless his spirit void finger or sword control skill breakthrough to a new level, Han Yi would not have the confidence to face a 7th layer of qi cultivating opponent head-on. With this in mind, Han Yi activates the translucent red panel that appears before his eyes. Lifespan, 25/99. Realm, middle stage of qi cultivating, 6/100. Techniques. Fire profound skill, adept 29/100. Skills. Alchemy skill, mastering 48/100. Spirit void finger, mastering 90/100. Sword control skill, mastering 49 IOO. Light body technique, mastering 19/100. Closing square bracket. Looking at the skills, all 4 of which had reached the mastering level, Han Yi felt satisfied. Over the past 3 years, he had opportunities to acquire other skills, through official channels, markets, or even purchasing them from Little Lingshu Peak's female cultivators with whom he was close. But he didn't. He understood the saying, bite off more than one can chew, and acted accordingly. Especially for spirit void finger and sword control skill, these 2 combat techniques complemented each other well. In real battles between cultivators, there was no such thing as a tug of war. Cultivator battles were full of rapid changes, with victory being decided in an instant. Han Yi's inner thought was to wait until these 2 techniques break through to the next level of mastering, then consider adding other techniques. He was bestowed the light body technique by the master of Little Lingshu Peak, and since Han Yi happened to lack a body technique, he practiced it as well. Moreover, during these 3 years, he traveled between multiple outer peak markets, deliberately cultivating this body technique and raising it to the level of mastering as well. Unfortunately, once all skills entered mastering, the progression speed would drastically slow down and take much more time. In the past 3 years, his most focused techniques, sword control skill and spirit void finger, had only reached 49 100ths and 90 100ths, respectively. The progress was not as ideal as he would have liked. Furthermore, as for the fire profound skill, it was a basic technique that impacted his realm cultivation progress, but he had not considered replacing it. Later, he learned that this technique was suitable for building a foundation in alchemy skill for those with fire spirit roots during early chi cultivation and middle stage of chi cultivating. He should wait until he reaches the 7th layer of chi cultivating before switching to other more advanced techniques. Xuanden sect's historical experience had proven this to be the correct path. Hence, Han Yi didn't insist on changing it and temporarily continued practicing this skill. In the 3 years, his fire profound skill had also advanced from proficient to adept. After reviewing his current status, Han Yi took out the storage bag he had grabbed from the robbing cultivator. It took him half a day to erase the original imprint on the storage bag, and when he looked at its contents, his heart was filled with excitement. There was a wide variety of items in the storage bag. Han Yi took out things he was interested in. More than 300 spirit stones, over 100 pounds of spirit sand, lots of bottles and jars, talismans, array discs, and 2 unused scripture transmission plates. These items, although not a huge fortune for someone like Han Yi who now had a net worth of over 2,000 spirit stones, were still exciting to obtain for free. Han Yi didn't examine the bottles, talismans, and array discs. Doing so would take up too much time. The thing Han Yi was short of the most was time. Instead of examining these, it would be better to practice his spirit void finger and advance to the next stage as soon as possible. Once he finished organizing items, he returned to his cultivation. Unyielding cultivation and continuous supply of spirit stones were the foundation of his breakthrough to the 5th layer of chi cultivating in 3 years. During this time, he focused on cultivating his spirit void finger. He was eager to see what the next level of mastering would be like. In the backyard of his courtyard, Han Yi had built a new practice room, using precious materials purchased at a high price that could withstand the attacks of the spirit void finger. This was where he practiced the spirit void finger daily. Nothing happened overnight. The next day, after tidying up, he went straight to the small Guanai Peak. Over the past 3 years, he had traded with the female cultivators of small Guanai Peak 7 or 8 times and was considered an acquaintance. This time, Chu Jinmo was not present, and Yan Ru received him instead. After 3 years together, the explosively attractive female cultivator looked much friendlier with Han Yi and was no longer icy cold. Junior brother Han Yi, have you reached the 5th level of chi cultivation? Yan Ru, with her sharp eyes, noticed that Han Yi's aura had reached the standard of the 5th level, which surprised her a bit. By a stroke of luck, just by a stroke of luck. Han Yi humbly said. The last time he came to small Guanai Peak was half a year ago, at the peak of the 4th level of chi cultivation. Today, he has already had a breakthrough. Yan Ru gave him a glance. This is not luck, it's well deserved. It won't be long before you break through to the 6th or even the 7th level of chi cultivation and join the inner peak, leaving the rest of us far behind. Yan Ru said with a touch of emotion. Comparing oneself to others really hurts. She had been stuck on the 5th level of chi cultivation for years and was still a long way from the 6th level. Junior brother Han Yi, with your cultivation speed, if you're willing, many junior sisters on small Guanai Peak would be interested in becoming your Dao partner. Why not think about it? Or is it that you can't do it? Han Yi, who was walking shoulder to shoulder with her, nearly tripped and fell. He turned to look at Yan Ru, only to see a rare teasing smile playing at the corners of her mouth, and he couldn't help but wave his hands and laugh bitterly. Sister Yan, please stop making fun of me. I really won't consider the Dao partner matter for now. Han Yi firmly declined. Alright, I'm just joking, don't mind it, let's go. One hope you brought enough pills today. Yan Ru withdrew her rare smile, returning her face to its usual calm, and led him into a room. Han Yi quickly followed. I won't disappoint Sister Yan. Half an hour later, the two came out of the room, Han Yi with a satisfied look on his face and Yan Ru with a look of regret. Han Yi was satisfied with the amount of spirit stones he had earned, a sizable sum. As for Yan Ru, she regretted that the pills Han Yi offered were relatively few. With more than 20 sisters to distribute, each got only a small portion. By the way, Sister Yan, when will Sister Chu return? Han Yi asked as he was about to leave. Yan Ru shook her head. One don't know either, she's been away with Uncle Chi for a year now, there's no exact word. Han Yi nodded and didn't press the matter further as it involved the matters of small Guanai Peak, which he shouldn't pry into. The next trade might have to be postponed. I'm at a bottleneck in my cultivation of a certain magic skill and want to close myself off for a while. I can only trade again in about half a year. Please convey my apologies to the other sisters of small Guanai Peak. Upon hearing this, the look of regret on Yan Ru's face deepened. However, since it involved Han Yi himself, she could not force him. Over the past 3 years, the pills Han Yi had sold to small Guanai Peak had been highly sought after. Nurturing Chi pill, Exorcise Evil Spirits pill, Focus pill, and Breaking Stage pill. These 4 pills were extremely important for cultivators in the middle stage of Chi cultivating. Moreover, Han Yi's pills were absolutely excellent value for money. The regret was even more profound knowing that the next transaction could only take place in half a year. After leaving small Guanai Peak, Han Yi first went to the Little Pan Stone Peak to look for Zheng Hai, but he couldn't find him, so he had to go back to Little Lingshu Peak. Chapter 29. The Thin Line Between Life and Death. Translator. 549,690,339. For the past 3 years, Han Yi had visited all 18 bazaars of the outer peak. Besides these, he often went to the small Guanai Peak where the female cultivators were located, and the Little Pan Stone Peak where Zheng Hai lived, which he could say was like a well-trodden path. Other than these places, he spent most of his time on Little Lingshu Peak and went to the Vermilion Bird Peak once a year to complete his tasks for points. Although he didn't actively promote himself, he couldn't resist the fame that he had gathered, and people often sought him out for private transactions involving pills. He usually refused such requests. If the person introducing him was too insistent, he would only trade the minimum amount of pills at a price higher than what was sold on small Guanai Peak, on par with the sect's pricing. Regardless, due to the high quality of his pills, the number of people seeking him steadily increased. Han Yi's mind was preoccupied, and his footsteps didn't stop as he reached the mountainside of Little Lingshu Peak. Suddenly, boom, a huge vibration rang out above, jolting his mind. He unconsciously looked up. Above his head, the originally hazy cloud sea, resembling a fairyland-like scene, now vanished. Instead, a pitch-black line, like a rift in the sky, extended from the neighboring outer peak, the Little Valley Sword Seal, directly to Little Lingshu Peak. Rumble. The terrifying vibrating sound spread out in all directions from the rift, and at the same time, the sinister black crack seemingly possessed a consciousness, tearing through the defensive formations of Little Lingshu Peak. It appeared to wriggle slowly but actually moved with extreme speed, striking the core of Little Lingshu Peak. A roar followed. Ji Yu Wuong, have you gone mad? The rage-filled voice was from a middle-aged cultivator in his 40s. Han Yi recognized him as the peak master of Little Lingshu Peak, who he had met a few times before, Fan Mo, who had reached the apex of the 9th level of Qi cultivation. Spirit light burst forth from Fan Mo's hand, pulling the core of Little Lingshu Peak and opposing the sinister black rift. In the blink of an eye, the spirit light shattered, and Fan Mo, who had soared into the sky, fell back to the peak in a sorry state. No, Ji Yu Wuong, have you been possessed by a demon? Damn it, heavenly demon invasion, all Little Lingshu Peak disciples, escape quickly. As soon as the words fell, a golden light emanated from Fan Mo, turning his body into a stream of light which raced out of Little Lingshu Peak and disappeared in the distance. He had actually abandoned everyone and escaped. Han Yi, who was situated halfway up the mountain, watched this scene unfold with an indescribable sense of shock in his inner heart. The next instant, he felt a sudden strike of danger. His face turned pale as an intense sense of crisis surged through his inner heart. Danger. As expected, before he had even made a move, the wriggling black rift in midair shattered and dispersed, transforming into sinister black air that descended directly upon the numerous courtyards of Little Lingshu Peak. Figures rose from the courtyards on their artifacts. They were the stewards of Little Lingshu Peak who had reached the high levels of Qi cultivation. However, those who attempted to flee on their artifacts were far weaker than Fan Mo. Barely having taken to the sky, they were enveloped by the sinister black air and fell, screaming in agony. Their breaths vanished, their fates unknown. Those who were below the high levels of Qi cultivation and couldn't take to the sky scrambled to escape in all directions. Some fled downhill, some to the back mountain, and some even thought that the courtyard's protective formations were still effective, unaware that the core of Little Lingshu Peak had been broken and the formations that relied on the spirit veins beneath the peak had already dissolved. The sinister black air swirled frantically, enveloping little Lingshu Peak in the blink of an eye. Devoid of protective formations, the outer sect disciples still in the courtyards were immediately assailed. In the chaos, wails filled the air. Han Yi, halfway up the mountain, was drenched in a cold sweat. His soul nearly escaped him as he abandoned everything in the courtyard. He bolted, pushing his light body technique to the limit, moving even faster than a 6th-rank Qi cultivation disciple. However, he was fast, but the eerie black gas was even faster. Suddenly, a black gas the size of a fist appeared 10 meters away, and then it rushed straight at him. Han Yi had clearly seen earlier that those high Qi cultivation disciples who had flown into the air were accurately hit by this thick black gas, although the black gas that came for him was only the size of a fist. But Han Yi didn't dare to take it lightly. He even had a feeling that this scene was a matter of life and death. Without hesitation, his hands waved frantically, almost forming an afterimage. The spirit void finger was sent out like a torrential downpour. In an instant, it had woven a tightly knit, layered spiritual light array. The array pressed forward and collided with the fist-sized black gas. Boom! An explosion occurred at the point of collision, and the terrifying blast sent Han Yi, who had no time to defend, flying more than 10 meters. He rolled a few times before coming to a stop. Han Yi didn't care about his embarrassment, and looked up at the center of the explosion. When he saw it clearly, his pupils contracted, and goosebumps covered his entire body. In the center of the explosion, the black gas had not dispersed, but had instead shrunk by half. However, it seemed to be agitated, violently trembling, and was about to pounce on Han Yi once again. Damn it, I'm going all out. Not minding his awkward posture, Han Yi combined his index and middle fingers. 3 hidden daggers from his waist jumped out with a gentle tremble, floating beside him above his head. Just at this moment, a terrifying roar came from above his head once again. Han Yi's entire mind was focused on the black gas 10 meters away, not daring to be distracted at all. However, with this roar, the black gas that was about to pounce on him again suddenly changed direction and flew into the sky. It was then that Han Yi looked up. He saw a cultivator standing in midair above Little Lingshu Peak. The cultivator's face was unclear, but Han Yi could sense the anger in his voice. In front of this airborne cultivator, the numerous black gas clusters that had been scattered on the peak's top before all rose into the air, converging together to form an indistinct-faced, more than 3-meter tall, black giant. Bold heavenly demon, daring to reveal your true form. Die. The airborne cultivator gently tossed an object, and a device flew out from his palm. It expanded in the wind, transforming into a 9-horned device. Flames suddenly surged outside the device, forming a fire net that enveloped the black giant. The black giant spat out thick black gas, but they all dissipated into nothingness under the fire net. The black giant tried to turn and flee but was not faster than the power of the device. The device rotated with a clatter, and 9 fire dragons emerged from it, trapping the black giant from all directions. The scorching heat of the fire attribute energy burned its body. A moment later, the black giant dissipated in midair. The airborne cultivator gathered his device and looked down. His gaze swept over Han Yi, who was staring intently at the sky, without revealing any emotion. Then, he turned and flew towards the inner peak. One horrific event finally came to an end. Han Yi's gaze followed the figure of the departing cultivator. So strong. Is this person an elder of the inner peak, a golden core stage cultivator? And the fire attribute device earlier, in fact, wasn't a device, but an even more powerful treasure. Then, his gaze fell back to Little Lingshu Peak. He looked at the heavily damaged Little Lingshu Peak with a somber expression. After looking somber, he sighed inwardly, feeling an intense sense of powerlessness. Is this the heavenly tribulation? For the first time, he realized the harm of the heavenly demons, not only their temptation during a breakthrough in realms, but also the more direct harm in front of him, the invasion of heavenly demons. Chapter 30. Tremors in Numerous Peaks. After the nascent soul stage expert of the inner peak killed the manifested true body of heavenly demon, Fan Mo returned to Little Lingshu Peak. His face had turned extremely unsightly. It wasn't just because Little Lingshu Peak had suffered tremendously during this calamity, but also because the cultivators at the Qi cultivating 7th level and above in charge of management had been targeted by the heavenly demons and almost entirely wiped out. The lower-ranked Qi cultivators also suffered during the first wave of black Qi erosion. Most of those who survived were disciples in the middle stage of Qi cultivating. Based on the data, less than 70% of the disciples on Little Lingshu Peak survived. In this wave of heavenly demon invasion, over 200 outer sect disciples met their untimely deaths. Fortunately, the nascent soul stage expert had taken action. If he had been any later, there would have been even more casualties. The second reason for Fan Mo's unsightly expression was that he had abandoned the disciples of the peak and fled during the crucial moment. Although this was a necessary action to save his own life, it had made him subject to denunciation from many outer peak masters in the Great Hall of the sect. They accused him of fleeing in the face of danger and being unworthy of his position, demanding that he relinquishes the position of peak master. Although the sect leader had temporarily suppressed the proposal, Fan Mo knew that he had left a bad impression in the eyes of the sect's high-ranking members. On the other hand, at this moment, Han Yi had already left Little Lingshu Peak long ago. After the nascent soul stage expert left, Han Yi didn't dare to linger for even a moment. Fearing that there might still be hidden dangers on Little Lingshu Peak, he immediately followed and descended the mountain. In fact, at this moment, most of the disciples on Little Lingshu Peak did not dare to stay either. They all ran away as fast as rabbits. Although the battle seemed to be over on the surface, it was always better to be safe than sorry. A gentleman does not stand beneath a dangerous wall, and cultivators are no exception. The place Han Yi chose to go was the Vermilion Bird Peak. As one of the 9 inner peaks, and the location of the sect's administrative Great Hall, Vermilion Bird Peak was bustling with people coming and going. It did not restrict access. Most importantly, the Vermilion Bird Peak, being one of the top 3 inner peaks, had a golden core stage cultivator present all year round. Han Yi was fast. When he arrived at Vermilion Bird Peak, he saw other outer sect disciples arriving one after another. Most of these disciples were from outer peaks near Little Lingshu Peak, while a few were from Little Lingshu Peak itself. These disciples from other outer peaks had witnessed the battle on Little Lingshu Peak and didn't feel safe, so they ran to Vermilion Bird Peak for refuge. As for the middle stage chi cultivators from Little Lingshu Peak, most were, like Han Yi, still frightened and pale. It was clear that they had been thoroughly scared and had not yet recovered. What on earth happened? I don't know. I just know that Little Lingshu Peak suffered a lot. Many fellow disciples were attacked, and only 2 or 3 out of 10 managed to escape. How could the true body of Heavenly Demon be manifested? Damn it. This happened within the sect. That's way too outrageous. By the way, aren't you from Little Bamboo Leaf Peak? Why did you run here too? Don't talk about it. Little Bamboo Leaf Peak is very close to Little Lingshu Peak. We saw the terrifying black giant. Nobody could escape from Little Valley Sword Edge, and Little Lingshu Peak was also affected. It's better to run in case something happens. Should we wait here to die? I heard from Elder Fu that the black giant manifested as the true body of Heavenly Demon. Who is Elder Fu? Of course it's the cultivator who killed the true body of Heavenly Demon in the end. Elder Fu is one of the nascent soul stage experts in our Schwanden sect. That divine fire-emitting treasure is the famous 9 Dragons divine fire cover. I see. What exactly is the true body of Heavenly Demon? I don't know. I don't know, either. In the midst of the fear, the people around couldn't help but discuss the situation. Han Yi learned from their conversations that the cultivator who stood in midair and killed the black giant, as he had suspected, was indeed a nascent soul stage expert named Fu from his sect. Moreover, the black giant formed from the black chi in the end was indeed the true body of the Heavenly Demon. As for what the true body of Heavenly Demon was, the people around didn't know much either. So they gave up. They waited for 2 or 3 hours. This period was agonizing for everyone. Finally, a Foundation establishment stage cultivator from Vermilion Bird Peak came out to inform everyone that the outer peaks were safe and sound, and that the formation cores had been activated to their maximum capacity so everyone could return. At this moment, everyone calmed down, and upon hearing this news, they left Vermilion Bird Peak and returned to the outer peaks. When Han Yi arrived at Little Lingshu Peak, the peak had already returned to a calm state. Apart from some collapsed courtyards, there were no other traces of battle. Outside the peak, the cloud sea drifted gracefully, occasionally emitting spirit light. This situation meant that the outer peaks, formations were pushed to the extreme, and with the peak master presiding over the core, even if another true body of Heavenly Demon invaded, they could withstand it for a while, holding out until reinforcements arrived. It wasn't just Little Lingshu Peak. After this day, over 100 outer peaks activated their formations to their maximum, forming an imposing scene of battle preparations. This situation made Han Yi's mood quite poor for the next few days. On the 7th day, when he went to Vermilion Bird Peak to inquire about the news, he unexpectedly reunited with Chu Jinmo, whom he hadn't seen for a year. Congratulations, Sister Chu, I wish you happiness. You finally reached the 7th level of chi cultivation, so you can leave the outer peaks and permanently reside in the inner peaks. Han Yi was happy for Chu Jinmo from his heart, and at the same time, he felt a little envious. If he was at the 7th level of chi cultivation, he could stay in the inner peaks. Among the 9 inner peaks, there were usually golden core stage cultivators stationed, and if not, the foundation establishment stage cultivators stationed there were still quite strong. The formations of the 9 inner peaks were interconnected, and unless multiple golden core stage enemies attacked, it was impossible to shake the inner peaks formations. Such a situation had never happened since the establishment of Xuanden sect thousands of years ago. In short, the inner peaks were an unshakable stronghold. Chu Jinmo was still wearing the grey robe of the outer sect and had not yet changed to the inner sect's attire. Her aura was unstable and much higher than before, clearly indicating that she had just broken through recently. In this situation, it was more than obvious. When Chu Jinmo saw Han Yi, a gentle smile appeared on her face. Why are you here, junior brother Han? I heard from junior sister Yan that you were in closed-door cultivation. Han Yi spread his hands and gave a bitter smile. What closed-door cultivation? Little Lingshu Peak had an incident, and I'm not in the mood for it. What Han Yi said was the truth. He originally planned to enter closed-door cultivation to focus on cultivating the spirit void finger, trying to break through to the next level. He estimated that it would take about 3 months. However, before he could enter closed-door cultivation, the heavenly demon invasion occurred. He was grateful that he was not in closed-door cultivation at that time, otherwise, it might have been even more dangerous. After that incident, Han Yi felt a bit fearful. His premise for closed-door cultivation was that Little Lingshu Peak had to be safe and stable, but now this premise had been broken. So, during this period, he felt a little uneasy and went around inquiring about the truth of the battle. Oh, right, I forgot that you live on Little Lingshu Peak. Luckily, you didn't get hurt. Chu Jinmo frowned, hesitated for a moment, but still decided to speak up. I happen to know some truth about what happened on Little Lingshu Peak. And this incident involves more than what meets the eye. Also, rest assured, junior brother Han, I heard from Uncle Shi that the sect's powerful cultivators have already inspected the place once, and they've activated the sect's great formation that spans across the mountain range. I believe that there won't be any incidents involving heavenly demons again. However, at this point, Chu Jinmo paused before continuing to speak. However, the sect might issue a recruitment order soon, so junior brother Han, it's better to be prepared in advance.